They're in touch with each other and so can't avoid, say, devouring each other, so they can feed on each other for the rest of their lives.
First of all, they kill off parts of themselves to guarantee that all the remaining parts, though few, can be preserved and perhaps used.
They gain their own inertia, lose their tendency toward free combination of others because they must deal with others' inertia.
Or they try to alter each other's character and needs. For instance, to avoid altering their own character, downgrading their own needs.
They catch each other in a provisional game, reduce each other's lives to restrained details of a life with only random expression.
They function perfectly, but without tension or power, without bringing their separate parts, their rules, into play to love each other.
They're absorbed in their parts, shutting out emptiness, and relate freely to each other, especially by being alien to each other.
Meanwhile, while they still have excess to dole out death so slowly that it looks like life, they try to love each other's hatred.
They find a place in the world and hesitate in another world. Find the exact place, say, where they hesitate to find each other.
They plumb each other's surfaces, grow mute in each other's sounds, function as each other's death in a restless world of anesthesia. They mingle with each other, plunge, sink into each other, overflow into each other, but they do not burn. They are too mortal for that.
They've come to stay in each other for as long as it lasts, and in order to attain final placement in each other, preferably for life.
They've stiffened in each other, arranged themselves with each other, got each other's situations under control, their fictions in order.
They've laid out layers of impassable permanent meanings in each other to attain immovable significance for each other at last.
They wear each other's masks to play each other's parts, their double games to the end, at last kill themselves by killing each other.
And they can set aside each other's masks and repeat.
Life is
death.
Life might as well get started. Laying out its death
to repeat life.
After they've pursued and found each other, stood up for each other, say, for each other's murder of each other, they proliferate.
After keeping each other's lives informed by proliferating, they begin to keep each other's deaths formless and to experiment.
They experiment with each other's freedom, start by talking about each other's freedom until they're tentatively pretending it exists.
They experiment with each other's conflicts, shared conflicts, and formulate all of each other's conflicts in shared stable models. They experiment with each other's formulations, say, each other's formulations of the length of life and possible future prospects.
They experiment with boundaries between each other, between motion and isolated rest. Life they invest, and death they get in return.
They experiment with each other's functions, each other's organs, systems, tissues, and skeletons, polish each other's human routines.
They experiment with each other's attempts to outlive each other, to outdistance each other's mortal danger, budding formlessness.
They experiment with each other's non-life as if it were not death, and they exist, say, as humans, as if they were not humans.
They exist as a world in each other's world, especially to preserve each other.
Preserve one dazzled delusion inside the other.
They exist as labyrinths inside each other's labyrinths, whose interminable movements they follow as if following set systems.
They exist as each other's fictions, as images heaped up in each other's illusions, but pretend it's a matter of logical forms.
They pretend their stable production of each other's consumption is on a par with their own deepest urges to consume each other.
They pretend it's possible to forget each other's random death in a world where presence, motion, illusion create their own world.
They pretend their random life is not a function of death, loosely flung off, already formless, but in another world.
They pretend life is not a steadily deepening chemical sleep oblivion, hushed increasingly slow anesthesia, fall vanishing. Nothing.
They pretend they're waiting to live.
They pretend they're waiting to live to make it possible for someone to live, tentatively as if asleep, pretend to live.
Pretend to live.